magnetic conductor is placed in between the magnetic field, we can exert a force on the conductors. You can exert force on the conductor. Okay. So this is the principle behind this activity. Okay. So when we keep a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field, we can see that there is a force acting on the conductor when this conductor is placed in between the magnetic fields. Okay. So based on this only, we are going to apply this principle and rule for the running of the motors. So you think whenever you are switching on your switch on your fans, mixie, anything, how this motor is running? How this motor is running?
Sir, by magnetism.
Yeah. So this electrical energy is converted into mechanical energy. Okay. What is mechanical energy? See here. Here, when you switch on this fan, the fan is start rotating, and it gives the rotation is happening there. And switch on the mixie or grinder, after getting the current, it's on into this it is grinding or mixing these things. So it is the mechanical energy. So the device which is converted to mechanical energy, electrical energy into mechanical is called as the motor. Okay, the device which converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. So after applying the electrical energy, then it will be motor will be start running. Without electricity, it won't start or move, or it won't run. So the conversion of the electrical energy into mechanical is called as the motors. So this is the working of the motor. So what principle this motor is going to work? Okay, the principle of the motor is that whenever a rectangular coil is placed, you know that if you take a fan or you take a motors, you can see number of copper wires turned in the inside insulators. பார்த்திருக்கீங்களா? Seen the copper wires in the coils பார்த்திருக்கீங்களா? Coil பார்த்திருக்கீங்களா? What is coil?
Sir, yes, sir, that thin wire.
நிறைய copper சுத்திறாங்க. That is the coils. So that coil is placed between the magnetic field system. So whenever a current is passed through that, the coils undergo a magnetic field and this undergo the deflections. Because of the deflection, they start rotating. Then automatically, one by one turn, it starts rotating the motor, and we can get the water, or you can get using the grinders, or using the fans, etc., etc., etc. Okay. So how this is working? For this, you want to apply a Fleming's left-hand rule principle. Okay, rule. So don't confuse here. I'm saying principle and rule here. Principle is different from the rules. Okay. So rules means you have to apply the Fleming's left-hand rule. Principle means on the what principle it is working. So the principle means the force of the current conductor is the principle here. So whenever a coil and a current carrying coil is placed in the rectangular coil, the current carrying coil is placed between the magnetic fields, they experience a force. That is the rule. That is the principle here. Okay. What is motor conductor? Motor is a device which converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. So see, three different questions are here. So don't confuse these three questions. They have different types of meanings are there. So all are not same. So what is motor means? Motor is a device which converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. What is the rule for motor means? Whenever rectangular coil is placed, the rule is Fleming's left-hand rule. Rule is Fleming's left-hand rule. Okay. So what is the principle means? Whenever a rectangular coil is placed between the magnetic fields, they experience a force. Okay. So this is the rule here. So this is the principle here. So மூணுக்குமே வந்து confuse இல்லாம நம்ம எழுதணும். Okay. Now see how this motor is going to work. Okay, on what basis it is working? First of all, I will show in book. Okay. So see what first of what?
Sir, please repeat the principle.
Principle. I'll say whenever a rectangular coil is placed between the magnetic fields, they experience a force. What we see in the previous activity now, same is based on this rule principle only. Mode is working. That is force of a current carrying conductor in a magnetic field. That is the rule here. That is the rule here. So that you're saying is here simply saying a current carrying conductor. Here you're saying it's rectangular coil. Rectangular coil. So if you see the diagram there, see the correct diagram there. What are the components in the electric motor? See, there are two magnets. This is a horseshoe magnet. This is not a bar magnet. This is a horseshoe magnet having north and south poles. And see, ABCD is a rectangular coil. ABCD is a rectangular coil. Okay, see the diagram correctly. So the electric motor is shown in figure. Okay, first of all, an electrical motor is a rotating device that converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. Underline that line, all of you. An electrical motor is a rotating device that converts electrical energy into mechanical energy. Electrical energy into mechanical energy. See, electric motor is used to as an important component in electric fans, refrigerators, mixers, washing machines, computers, MP3 players, etc. Yeah. So how this motor works now that is only going to see now. An electric motor, yeah, consists of a rectangular coil ABCD of insulated copper wire. Insulated copper wire. So the copper wire is insulated and is surrounded on the coil. Okay. The coil is placed between the two poles of magnetic field. So ABCD is a rectangular coil and two shafts are there. So they are converted in charge in center. It is a pipe material that is called armature. Okay. So one by one you can see. The electrical motor consists of rectangular coil ABCD of insulated copper wire. The coil is placed between the two poles of a magnetic field such that the arm AB and CD are perpendicular to the direction of the magnetic field. Okay. The arm AB and CD are perpendicular to the direction of the magnetic field. Clear? Arm AB and CD, they are perpendicular, not parallel. They are perpendicular arm such that, okay, between the two poles of magnetic field such that the arm AB and CD are perpendicular to the direction of the magnetic field. And magnetic field direction perpendicular irukkanum. Okay, parallel irundha varadu, perpendicular irukkum. Okay va? So the ends of the coil are connected to the two halves P and Q. See there, the 2.5 are pathingala, that is called as the split rings. That is called as the split rings here. Okay, nalla paathu split rings. This P and Q are split rings and they are connected to the brushes X and Y. X, Y brush adadire angada wire joint avudhu. Nammalaga see the battery here. From battery we are joining the wires. Battery is having positive negative terminals with the key is enclosed there. So first of all, from see in the left hand side, the positive terminal is connected to the press X. From press X, current is passing to the P. From press X, current is passing to the P. Okay, and press onto press Y, it comes out. Okay, so first of all, current passes from the X and enters to the split ring P. Split ring P. Yeah, and then after split ring P, and then it goes to the current rectangular coil A. From A, it moves to B, and B to C, and C to D, and again it comes to Q, Q to Y, and it will be coming to the Y. This is the situation here. Okay, but see here, because of the rotations of the motor, there will be some difference will be there now. So now watch clearly, read the paragraph now. Okay, the ends of the coil are connected to the two halves P and Q of the split rings. In the splitting connect பண்ணிட்டோம். The inner sides of these halves are insulated and attached to an axle. உள்ள வந்து கரண்ட் போகாத மாதிரி நம்ம இன்சுலேஷன் மேல வந்து கவர் வச்சு வச்சிருவாங்க. Okay, the inner sides of these halves are insulated and attached to the axle. So that pipe mark பத்தி this called as the axle. அது சுத்தும். அது சுத்தாத பைப் மார்க் மேல வந்து பைப் சுத்தாது. அது மேல இருக்க சுத்தும். அது மேல இருந்து அந்த PQ வந்து சுத்த ஆரம்பிக்கும். ஓகேவா? ஸ்பிளிட்டிங் சுத்த ஆரம்பிக்கும். ஓகே, ஸ்பிளிட்டிங் எப்படி சுத்தும்? because PQ because the rectangle is connected to the rectangular coil. Coil connect ஆயிருக்கனால அது சுத்த ஆரம்பிக்கும். அது சுத்த ஆரம்பிக்கும். Inner side of this house are insulated and attached to the axle. The external conducting edges of the P and Q touch two conducting stationary brushes X and Y. So directly PQ directly connect பண்ணாம brush XY மூலமா அது டச்ல இருக்கும். current pass டச்ல இருக்கும். current off pass automatically P க்கு pass ஆகும். ஓகேவா? So the external conducting edges of the P and Q touch two conducting stationary brushes X and Y. Okay, these are the constructions here. Okay, these are the construction. Up to now we have seen the construction. I can patacha. Purida construction purida உங்களுக்கு? Construction purida?
Yes sir.
So construction இது constructions. அதாவது என்னென்ன parts வச்சிருக்காங்க அதுல? They are having battery, they are having key, they are having a brush X and y and here is split rings. Split rings வந்து ரெண்டா வந்து கட் ஆயிருக்கும். ஸ்பிளிட் ரிங்ஸ் ஸ்பிளிட் ரிங் இருக்கு, பெரிய இருக்கிற ஸ்பிளிட் பிரிஞ்சு இருக்கிற ஸ்பிளிட் இந்த பக்கம் பாதி இருக்கும். ஓகேவா? ஓகே, அது இருக்கு. தென் எப்படி கரண்ட் பாஸ் பண்ணனா பேட்டரி வந்து கரண்ட் எக்ஸ் மூலமா பிக்கு போகுது. ஸோ திஸ் இஸ் தி கன்ஸ்ட்ரக்ஷன் ஆஃப் தி மோட்டார். ஸோ நெக்ஸ்ட் you are going to see about the working of the motor. How it is working? இது வந்து பாத்தீங்க என்ன பாட்டு பாத்தீங்க. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் வந்து மோட்டார் என்னன்னு பார்த்திருக்கோம். நெக்ஸ்ட் we are going to see what is the principle of motor and what is the rule you are going to follow. These are the main things here. Then construction. Then construction எழுத போறோம். construction முடிச்சாச்சு. Then you are going to write the what? Working of the motor. இத்தனை ஹெட்டிங் நான் போட்டேன், புக்ல இருக்காது. We have tried using like this only. ஓகேவா? இதெல்லாம் நம்ம இருக்குனாங்க. So current in the coil. See, current coil எங்க இருக்கு? current in the coil ABCD enters on the source battery. current coil rectangular coil current எப்படி வரும்? ABCD is the rectangular coil சொல்லிட்டோமா? ABCD rectangular coil சொல்லவாட்டி. So current எப்படி வருது? First of all, current இந்த பேட்டரியை வந்து கீ ஆன் பண்றோம். கீயை வந்து plug in பண்றோம். Or plugging the key, what happens? It is going to the X க்கு போகுது. current வந்து X க்கு போகுது. current in the coil ABCD enters on the source battery through conducting brush X and flows back to the battery to brush Y. இது வந்து சிம்பிள். இது வந்து சர்க்யூட்ல இப்படி தான் நடக்க சொல்றாங்க. நோட்டீஸ் தட் the current in the arm AB of the coil flows from A to B. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் என்ன பண்றோம்? X ல இருந்து போற கரண்ட் P வழியா இங்க போகுது, A க்கும் B க்கும் போகுது. P வழியா எங்க போகுது? AB வழியா AB க்கு போகுது. ஓகே, so notice that current in the arm AB of the coil flows from A to B in the arm. ஓகேவா? in arm CD it flows from C to D. புரியுதா? the current direction புரியுதா பாத்தீங்களா? ஃபர்ஸ்ட் current is flowing from A to B ல direction போகுது. A to B க்கு போகுது. இதுல இந்த ஆர்ம்ல இது ரெண்டு ஆர்மா பிரிச்சுக்கோ. லெஃப்ட் ஆர்ம் ரைட் ஆர்ம் பிரிச்சாலும் சரி. லெஃப்ட் ஆர்ம் நம்ம AB இது லெஃப்ட் ஆர்ம்ல இருக்கு. ஸோ AB கரண்ட் பார்க்கும்போது இது கரண்ட் இஸ் பாசிங் ஃப்ரம் தி A to B, அப்படியே B to C போய் திருப்பி C to D க்கு வரும். அப்படியே C to D க்கு வரும். ஓகே, C to D க்கு வரும்போது என்னாவது? இந்த அந்த ஆர்ம்ல வந்து C to D கரண்ட் வருது. That is in the opposite to the direction of the current flowing through arm AB. So AB லயும் CD யும் current opposite direction ல flow பண்ணுது. இந்த கரண்ட் போயிட்டு அந்த பக்கம் வருது. ஸோ இது ரெண்டு ஆப்போசிட் டைரக்ஷன்ல இருக்கு. ஓகே, ஸோ அப்ளைங் ஃப்ளெமிங்ஸ் லெஃப்ட் ஹேண்ட் ரூல் ஃபார் தி டைரக்ஷன் ஆஃப் தி ஃபோர்ஸ் ஆஃப் தி கரண்ட் கேரிங் கண்டக்டர். என்ன ரூல்? கோயிங் அப்ளை தி ஃப்ளெமிங்ஸ் லெஃப்ட் ஹேண்ட். இங்கே எதுக்கு சார் அப்ளை பண்றோம்? ஏன் அப்ளை பண்ண போறோம்? வாட் இஸ் தி அப்ளிகேஷன் ஆஃப் ஃப்ளெமிங்ஸ் லெஃப்ட் ஹேண்ட் ரூல்? எதுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ண போறோம்? ஃப்ளெமிங்ஸ் லெஃப்ட் ஹேண்ட் ரூல் எதுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ண போறோம்? ஃபார் வாட் பர்பஸ்? For what purpose using the Fleming's left hand rule here? Anyone?
Sir, to find the direction of the force.
To find the direction of the movement of the coil. இந்த பக்கம் இது கண்டுபிடிக்கிறோம். ஓகேவா? So see, we find that the force acting on the arm AB pushes it downwards, while force acting on the arm AB pushes it upwards. So AB ல வந்து சாதாரண ஒரு சிச்சுவேஷன் நினைச்சுக்கோ. AB ல வந்து கரண்ட் போகுது அப்படின்னா அந்த வெயிட் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோ. வெயிட் ஆயிடுச்சு. ஸோ ஃபர்ஸ்ட் AB ல கரண்ட் போகும்போது கரண்ட் வந்து ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா ஷாஃப்ட் கீழே போகும். ஓகேவா? ஸோ AB pushes it downwards. அதனால கரண்ட் AB pushes it downwards. while the force acting on the arm CD pushes it upwards. மேல வந்து CD வந்து மேல வந்துரும். ஓகேவா? as the coil on the axle O mounted 3 to turntable axis. வந்து காயில் வந்து அந்த ஆக்சில் மவுண்ட் ஆகினா ஈஸியா ரொட்டேஷன் பண்ணது ஈஸியா இருக்கும். அந்த ஆக்சில் O அது மேல ஃபிக்ஸ் ஆகினால ஈஸியா சுத்த ஆரம்பிக்கும். ஓகேவா? mounted 3 to turn about the axis, rotate anti clockwise. என்ன clockwise-ல திருப்பி AB கீழே போய் CD இந்த பக்கம் வச்சா நாவும் it rotates in the anti clockwise direction. at half rotation அது பாதி தடவை வந்தனே Q makes contact with brush X and P. திரும்ப என்ன வரும்? X வந்து P வந்து எங்க போயிடும்? Y கிட்ட போயிடும். Q வந்து X கிட்ட வந்துடும். இப்ப எனக்கு பிரஷ் தனியா தான் இருக்கு, கான்டாக்ட்ல இல்ல. ஓகேவா? அப்ப சுத்தம் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா Q வந்து X கிட்ட வந்துரும், P வந்து Y கிட்ட போயிடும். ஓகேவா? Q makes the contact with brush X and P with brush Y. Therefore, the current in the coil gets reversed. இப்ப current வந்து காயில் பண்ணா ரிவர்ஸ் பண்ண. அப்ப இந்த பக்கம் இருந்துச்சு, இந்த பக்கம் CD இந்த பக்கம், இப்ப CD இந்த பக்கம் இருக்கு, AB இந்த பக்கம் இருக்கு. இப்ப current CD க்கு போய் திருப்பி AB க்கு வரும். அப்ப ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா நம்ம திருப்பி இந்த பக்கம் ரொட்டேஷன் பண்ண ஆரம்பிக்கும். ஓகேவா? சோ மாத்தி ரொட்டேஷன் பண்ணி கண்டினியூஸா it starts rotating with the speed of magnetic field effect இருக்கனால ஸ்பீடா ரொட்டேட் பண்ண ஆரம்பிக்குது. ஓகே, so a device that reverse the direction of there is another device. It is called as commutator. commutatorங்கிறதுக்கு இதுனா நம்மளோட சர்க்யூட்ல கரண்டோட டைரக்ஷன் ரிவர்ஸ் பண்றதுக்கு தான் கம்யூட்டேட்டர். ஓகேவா? அது தனியாவோ இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட் இருக்கு. பட் இந்த மோட்டார் பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் yes, filtering act as a commutator. So a device that is the direction of the flow of current through a coil is called as the commutator. So in electric motor, split ring is acts as a commutator. Underline பண்ணிக்குது. ஓகேவா? Split ring acts as a commutator. Okay? Underline பண்ணிக்கலாம் main line. A device that reverses the direction of the flow of current. Yeah. So a circuit is called as commutator. Underline பண்ணு. In electric motors, the split ring acts as a commutator. Okay? So the reversal of the current also reverses the direction of the force acting on the two arms A, B, C, D. So நம்ம current reverse ஆனால திருப்பி coil current மாத்தி போகும். ஓகேவா? So இப்படி மாறிட்டே இருக்கும். மாறிட்டே that's the arm AB of the coil that was earlier pushed down and now pushed up, and arm CD is pushed up is now pushed down. மாறிவே போயிட்டு therefore the coil and the axle rotate half a turn more in same directions. So half turn வந்து ஒரே மாதிரி ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா இங்க force of gravitation இருக்கும்போது ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா வந்து நாம inertia சுத்த ஆரம்பிச்சோம். The reversing of the current is inertia என்னது நமக்கு 9th படிச்சிருப்போம். ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கா வந்து மூவ் ஆயிட்டே இருக்கும் inertia. ஒரு ஒர்க் ஆனிச்சுனா அப்படி வரைக்கும் சுத்திட்டே இருக்கும். Okay, therefore the coil and the axle rotate half a turn more in same direction. The reversing of the current is repeated at each half rotation, giving rise to a continuous rotation of the coil and the axle. So ஒவ்வொரு half rotationலயும் continuous current கொடுத்துட்டே இருக்கனால it start rotating with a continuous rotation. So இதுதான் வந்து ஒரு function of the working of the motor. So okay, இதை நம்ம வந்து இந்த மோட்டர் வந்து நம்ம laboratory மோட்ல பார்க்குறோம். So இந்த commercial motors, ஃப்ரிட்ஜுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ணுறோம், ஃபேனுக்கு யூஸ் பண்ணுறோம், அதுக்கு இதுக்கு என்ன அந்த மோட்டருக்கு இந்த மோட்டருக்கு என்ன வித்தியாசம் அப்படின்னு பார்த்தீங்கன்னா, the commercial motor use an electromagnet in place of the permanent magnet. Here we are using the permanent magnet, but in the case of commercial motors they are using the electromagnet, that is permanent, that is temporary magnet. See, large number of turns of the conducting wire in the coil. Here we are large number of copper current. Yeah. A soft iron core on which is a coil is wound. So we are here using the soft iron core. A soft iron core on which the coil is wound plus the coil is called an armature. This enhances the power of the motor. Okay, just we can watch one video. Just a minute.
It's running and our fan spins. Such devices which convert electricity. When I turn on this,
Can you hear the audio? Audio கேக்குதா?
Yes, sir.
which an electric current starts running and our fan spins. Such devices which convert electricity into rotation, we give a name to it. We call it the electric motor. And these devices are used in many places, like in your washing machines, your drilling machines, or even your electric cars. But the big question is, how does an electric current, which is basically moving electrons, push something as big as a fan and make it spin? The secret to these motors are magnets. In a previous video, we had seen that a current carrying wire can be pushed by magnets, or more technically, magnetic fields. So an electric motor uses this magnetic push to spin a current carrying conductor. So in this video, let's explore exactly how it works. So let's start with a couple of magnets, which will generate a magnetic field that's going to push our current carrying wire. And instead of just introducing a single wire carrying current, we will introduce a current carrying rectangular loop. Now the loop can be of any shape, but if you take it as a rectangle, it'll be easier to analyze this. And if you're wondering why are we considering a loop, we'll soon understand why. And as of now, let's not worry about where the current is coming from, where the battery is. We'll deal with that later. Now, each side of this rectangular loop is a current carrying wire inside a magnetic field. That means each side will experience a force. And as a result, this coil might start moving. Now to figure out how this coil will move, we need to figure out the direction of the force acting on each side of this loop. And to do that, we've seen before, we can use the left hand rule, where you take your left hand, you stretch your fingers like this, and remember FBI, the thumb gives the direction of the force, the forefinger gives magnetic field, and the middle finger gives us the direction of the current. So to figure out the force on any side of the wire, we just have to align our fingers in according to the current and the magnetic field, and the thumb will tell us what direction the force is. And so what we need to do next is apply this left hand rule to each side of the wire. And so can you try and do this yourself first? So great idea to pause the video and see if you can apply this yourself and figure out the direction of the force. All right, let's do this. Let's start with the pink wire. The current is inwards and the magnetic field is to the left. So if we align our left hand, it will look somewhat like this. And so notice the thumb is pointing upwards, and as a result, the force is upwards. Now, if we apply the same left-hand rule to this side, we see that the force is acting downwards. And if you look at these two remaining sides, the current is parallel to the magnetic field. And we've seen before, whenever our electric current is parallel to the magnetic field does not push it. And so there will be no forces acting on this wire or on this wire. So there will be an upward force here and a downward force over here. And as a result, our coil will start moving. But how exactly will it move now? Well, here's my board. Let's imagine this is our rectangular coil. Notice on the left side, I'm going to push it up. On the right side, I'm going to push it down. And as a result, notice it starts spinning. So just like this, our coil will also start spinning. And in fact, over here, it's going to spin in the clockwise direction. So the same thing will happen over here. Our coil will start spinning in the clockwise direction. Now, as it spins, the forces on this wire and this wire will remain the same, because the magnetic field is still in the same direction. The current is still into the screen over here. That has not changed. So the force over here will still be up, but and the force over here will still be down. But if you're curious, you may wonder what happens now to the forces on this side and this side. Earlier, they were parallel to the magnetic field, but now they are no longer parallel to the magnetic field. So won't there be forces acting on these wires now as well? Yes, there will be. Won't those forces affect our rotation? No, they won't. Why not? Let's see why. Well, if we apply the left-hand rule to this wire, notice the magnetic field is to the left. The current is sort of downwards. So if you apply the left-hand rule, we see that the force will be into the screen. Now, similarly, if we apply the left-hand rule on this side, over here, the force comes out of the screen. So there are forces acting on these wires, but what are these forces doing? They're just pulling this coil apart. It's just like taking this board and pulling it like this. These two forces are not going to do anything. They're just going to cancel out. They're not going to provide any rotation. And as a result, we can totally ignore these forces. They will not affect our rotation at all. So throughout the entire rotation, we will ignore the forces acting on this side and this side because they're just going to cancel out. They will not affect our rotation. So yay, our coil is now spinning. But pretty soon we run into a problem. You see, if we bring back our board, if we want this board to continuously keep spinning in the clockwise direction, let's say, then notice the force on the right must always be down and the force on the left must always be up. It should always follow that rule. Over here, once the pink wire comes to the right, notice the force on the right side has become up and the force on the left side has become down. this will spin my coil back in the anti-clockwise direction. So you know what's going to happen next? Next, my coil will spin back like this. Now again, the coil will spin forward in the clockwise, anti-clockwise, clockwise, anti-clockwise. This is bad. This is not a motor, or at least not a good motor, because it's not completing even a single rotation. So how do we fix this? Well, to make sure it continuously keeps spinning in the clockwise direction, we have to somehow make sure when this position comes, the force on this wire should become downwards and the force on this wire should become upwards, right? Only then it will continue spinning in the clockwise direction. So we need to reverse the direction of the forces. But the question is, how do we do that? Well, again, let's bring in our left hand. So to reverse the force, say over here, we want the thumb to point downwards. Now there are two ways to do that. One, we can reverse the forefinger, that is the magnetic field, keeping the current same. That's one way to do that. But we'll not do that because flipping the direction of the magnetic field is not all that easy. We have to change the poles and we cannot do that automatically. But another way in which we can achieve this is we can keep the magnetic field the same direction, but we can reverse the direction of our middle finger, our current, like this. And as a result, our force will now point downwards over here. So if we flip the direction of the current everywhere, then the force direction will change everywhere. So the force over here will be downwards and the force over here will be upwards. And if you're wondering, well, how can we change the direction of the current just like that? We'll see how to do that a little bit later. But that's the most important thing over here. In this position, we have to change the direction of the current. So let's get rid of our hand, flip the direction of the current, and now the forces flip, and as a result, our coil will continue to spin in the clockwise direction. Yay! This will happen until, again, once the blue wire flips over. Now once the blue wire comes to the right and the pink wire comes to the left, again we have the same problem. Now again on the right hand side the force is up, left hand side the force is down. And again we need to do the same thing. We need to change the current. Here it is. Change. Once we change the direction of the current, the coil will continue to spin. And so by changing the direction of the current every half a rotation, the direction of the forces will change and our coil will continuously keep spinning. Finally, we have converted electricity into rotation. Now, of course, in this animation, I'm pausing every time the current is changing so that we can see the forces flipping. But of course, in reality, the thing will keep on spinning continuously. The last thing we need to explore is how do we attach a battery to this and make sure that the current direction reverses after every half a rotation. So let's say we bring in our battery, attach a couple of wires to it, and let's say we directly attach these wires to our coil. Then as the coil starts spinning, because the current starts flowing through it, you will see that the wire starts twisting and tangling and whatnot. But now more importantly, at this position, we want the current to reverse. How do we do that? Well, we could either flip the battery or we could flip this connection. We can make this wire come here and this wire come here. Then the current direction will change, the forces will reverse, and the coil will continue to spin. But how do we make this happen automatically? That's the question, right? How do we make it automatic? Well, it can be done by using a device called a commutator. A commutator consists of split rings, which are basically two half metallic rings with some gap in between, and a couple of carbon brushes. So the wires are attached to these brushes, and these brushes are just in contact with these rings. They are not connected to them. Because of the contact, electricity starts flowing through it, And as the coil spins, notice the ring spins with them, but the brushes just stay there. So the brushes are literally brushing against the rings, maintaining the contact, and making sure the electricity flows through. This solves our problem of wires tangling and everything. But now more importantly, let's see how this reverses the direction of the current every half a rotation. So right now, the pink ring is in contact with the positive terminal and the blue ring is in contact with the negative terminal. But notice what happens once the coil spins enough. Once the coil spins and comes to this position, now notice the pink ring has come in contact with this brush, the negative terminal of the battery, and the blue ring has come in contact with this brush, the positive terminal of the battery. So now notice, due to this commutator, automatically current will start flowing from here into this coil in the reverse direction, coming out from here into the negative terminal. And so the current direction flips, and so the forces also flip, making sure the coil continues to spin in our clockwise direction until again, notice, now again they will change contacts. Now again the pink will come in contact with the positive terminal, the blue will come in contact with the negative terminal, and as a result the current will now again flow this way, again reversing the direction of the forces. And so using a commutator, we have now achieved complete motor action. So what did we learn in this video? Well, we learned that a motor consists of a couple of magnets and a current carrying coil. The magnetic field pushes the coil, making it rotate. And the